Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I'm doing the weekly astrology report starting from Wednesday the 8th of November, and just to outline the general themes and outline some of the key aspects and transits that we'll be experiencing this week. So if we start off with the moon, we begin with the moon in Cancer. This is her home sign, so she's very strong here. And this is where she connects us with those emotional ties, emotional rhythms of life, and the general ups and downs like the tides, which we experience all the time. And in Cancer, it's also about getting down to the core of our being, exploring our dreams, exploring our emotional nature, and using the moon's releasing function to shed any old emotional patterns there. On Thursday, she then moves into Leo. So with Leo, this is about the emotional need to express ourselves, to be creative, to express that playful nature that we all have within us. We may well try to suppress it over the years out of a sense of duty, but we all have that playful nature somewhere within us. Then on Saturday, she moves into Virgo. So this is where we may feel an emotional need to establish order in our lives, to take care of the basic nuts and bolts, so dealing with the ordinary day-to-day details that they're not necessarily glamorous, but when we deal with them, we feel a sense of accomplishment, we feel satisfied that we've got order in our lives. And it may also be a time where we feel like helping other people out by sharing the skills that we have to help someone who's in a bit of difficulty. And then on Monday, she moves into Libra, where we may feel emotionally to connect with other people, to possibly nurture our relationships, but just spend time with other people rather than just ourselves, and feeling that shared bond of connection that we feel with people, especially with people like friendships, etc. Now, in terms of the other aspects this week, one of the most important is the Black Moon Lilith is changing signs on the 9th, which is Thursday. So she's been in Sagittarius for the past 10 months. She's now moving into Capricorn, where she'll spend the next 9 to 10 months bringing up the shadow side of Capricorn, where the feminine side of ourselves is being buried or being hidden and suppressed, and that we need to transform it in order to develop a healthy relationship with this sign and to transform the nature of our power with it. We also have, on the same day, the Sun sextile Pluto aspect, which I mentioned briefly last week. This is exact on the same day the Lilith changes signs, and later on we have Saturn and Uranus are in exact trine. This is the third and final trine of a series of trines that have been happening over the course of the last year, and this is where the normally antagonistic functions of Saturn and Uranus are working together more smoothly than normal. But how this manifests varies from one person to another, and I'll go into a bit more detail with that. And finally, we have the exact Venus-Pluto conjunction on Monday, and this is a time where relationships may be transformed, or we may experience the shadow side, but this also brings potential for healing. But back to Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith we all have it somewhere in our charts, but unlike the normal moon, which is about our emotional needs, it's the personal nature. For us to manifest Lilith positively, we have to do it in a more impersonal way, because whatever Lilith touches, she depersonalizes. So she's generally felt as quite dark for our subjective self, but when we expand our perception and become more objective, then she can be enlightening. She shows us where we may operate in the shadow side of a sign, because we're looking to use that sign to personally strengthen ourselves rather than looking at how we can use it for other people. Now with Capricorn often deals with a sense of duty, of being in charge, etc. And Capricorn is also about, at the higher level, it's divine order. But for us to manifest this first, we need to understand who we are at the deepest level. Capricorn is the external side of us. It's the public face, if you like, as opposed to Cancer, which is the private face. But for us to bring the highest level of Capricorn out, we need to understand who we are at the deepest level of our being, so that, and whatever we do in our lives publicly, we need to find a way to make it an external reflection of who we are. So we're not wearing a mask, or we're not trying to be someone that we're not. We're not pursuing a career because we're told that was the right thing to do, but it's not actually aligned with our core sense of self. It's about that personal integrity. The inner and the outer are a seamless match. We're not trying to be someone that we're not. When people see us, it's a case of what you see is what you get. It's not someone pretending to be something they're not. And whilst they may outwardly be successful, inside they're suffering because they feel like a fraud. They're pursuing something doggedly because that's what they thought they need to do, but it's not actually who they are. And as a result, we may feel like an imposter doing this. So Black Moon Lilith here may well be showing us where are we not being true to who we are, where are we suppressing our true self in order to pursue a career which isn't actually aligned with who we are, doesn't reflect our being, and therefore causes suffering. And it may well drive behaviours within us to control other people, to dominate others out of that need for power. And this is something that we all need to look at within ourselves, is our relationship with power. Do we try and control other people because we think we know better, or that we fear other people trying to control us, so we try and dominate the situation instead? Do we feel like we have to achieve a goal at all costs, and it doesn't matter what the consequences are along the way? If we get there, that's all that matters. Because at the end of the day, the ruler of Capricorn, Saturn, is a karmic taskmaster, and with Saturn, it points out our key weaknesses and does not really let up until we actually face these areas and strengthen them, develop the discipline to overcome whatever obstacles or limitations we may be facing, and to develop a stronger character. So with Black Moon, Lilith and Saturn's sign, we're being challenged to become or depersonalise our ambition, to look at the bigger picture and make sure that what we are doing is serving that divine order, is being true to who we are as individuals, and is not just fulfilling a career that we thought was good for us but doesn't actually resonate with who we are. We're just doing something to feel like, to earn that paycheck, to look like a success in society's eyes, but deep inside we're not happy with it. So during the next 10 months, Lilith will be digging up the shadow side of Capricorn to show us where the pursuit of career or social status has been done at the cost of our true self. And if you look at one of the common needs of public careers and stuff like that, because of the way the society is structured, it's very patriarchal at the moment. It's not that women can't achieve anything, a lot of women do, but the pressure is to suppress the feminine side within us. The pressure is to be very, almost, especially for men, to be macho. But you generally, to be seen as successful in a career, you have to be dominating, you have to be assertive, you have to be forceful, and you have to be in control. And this often means that we end up suppressing the feminine side, and Lilith is all about revealing the hidden feminine, or the suppressed feminine that's been oppressed for a long time within each and every one of us, and that we need to understand it. So often it comes out and shows the negative side first, because if we're not aware of the negative side, then how can we elevate it to begin with? So we may find that we're being shown our power drives, our need to assert and control a situation out of fear of looking weak or vulnerable. And we need to transform this so we understand who we truly are at a deeper level. We integrate the feminine qualities of compassion, of wisdom, because knowledge is all fine and good, but knowledge is all based in the past. If we don't have the wisdom to see how that knowledge needs to be applied for the greater whole, then it can be very dangerous. So during this time, with Lilith moving through Capricorn, we may be challenged to overcome this idea of what we should be doing with our lives and learn to use a greater wisdom with what we're doing. Now, the other aspects that I mentioned, Saturn and Uranus have been in a trine on and off all year, and with Saturn being all about the status quo of structure, of discipline, of order, organisation and slow steady growth, and Uranus on the other hand being about the breaking down of structures, of liberating consciousness from crystallised form, of looking for the looking to an expanded point of view beyond the personal self to a more humanitarian point of view, and the sudden insights as opposed to slow and steady growth. Now, Saturn has been in Sagittarius during all this time, so Saturn's been showing us the limitations of belief systems, of showing us natural laws that we may not be working in alignment with. And as such, if we're not aligned with these laws, then we will face restrictions because we're not following the flow of life. And this flow can help us move along our journey a lot faster than if we try to fight it. So during Saturn's time in Sagittarius, it's been showing us all the belief systems that we have and their limitations that they impose on us. And these aren't necessarily religious beliefs, the fundamental framework of beliefs that each and every one of us has, along with our ethics. It's been showing us the consequences of these belief systems. So ideally during this time with Saturn in Sagittarius, we've been needing to look at ourselves and evaluate our beliefs and figure out where are they holding us back, where they trap our potential, because Saturn is like a guardian of potential. We will not be able to tap into any more potential until we learn to develop discipline, until we learn to wield the power and potential responsibly, so that it is aligned with the divine laws, like the laws of karma, which is cause and effect, and is based on a more collective perspective. So we don't just see ourselves as individuals that we have to do everything's work, me, myself and I. We look at the big picture and we understand that every action that we have has a consequence, and we need to be conscious of what we're doing, and we need to look at how much responsibility we take for ourselves, because for true freedom to take place and true liberation to take place, we have to take 100% responsibility for ourselves. And this is something that a lot of us may fear in one way or another if we haven't made that realisation. But Saturn is also about highlighting where belief systems stop us from connecting with that transcendental experience, the sudden opening of the mind to realise that, my God, there's more to everything than this. There's a bigger picture. We're not just bound by this flesh, we're much greater, we're multi-dimensional. And it's that sudden experience of just knowing that you're part of something far bigger than you realise, and we're all part of the wider cosmos. We're not just skin encapsulated egos. But Saturn challenges the beliefs that stand in the way of this experience by almost crystallising them, so that we realise that these beliefs act as prisons. They do not enable us to grow. Uranus, on the other hand, has been in Aries since 2011, and has been showing us the need or the realisation that we cannot achieve this. Uranus can deal with a sense of oneness, but this is at the mental level as opposed to the emotional like Pisces does. But Uranus is also about that utopian ideal, that idea of universal freedom, universal love, of helping one another and building communities on shared principles and based on helping each other become better versions and more empowered, and also communities that honour the individual for who they are as their unique self, whilst understanding that we are all interconnected. Now, his transit through Aries has been highlighting the fact that For this to happen, we must first understand and know ourselves, and we must transform our sense of identity through taking responsibility for ourselves, for learning to embrace new beginnings, embrace change rather than fearing it, and to realise that if change is going to happen, we must, as individuals, be that change that we wish to see. We cannot just wait around idly by, waiting for the collective to move and get off its arse to make these changes. We have to be the instruments of that change. At the same time, the changes that we implement must also be aligned with the higher ideals. It's not about change for the sake of being rebellious, it's not change for being unconventional. It's change at humanitarian level, which liberates the individual to understand who they are. And once they understand who they are, they can then take the actions, which is Aries again, aligned with who they are, that will empower them to be the pioneers of their own lives, rather than relying on other people to do everything for them. These two planets together we've experienced a lot. There's been a lot of chaos as a result of Uranus breaking things down and Saturn showing us the limitations of beliefs. As beliefs are being shown to be false, that can create a sense of crisis. But at the same time, this has also been an opportunity to liberate our minds through shedding the old beliefs and then transforming that into actions based on self-empowerment, of taking charge of our own lives rather than relying on other people to do the work for us. So if we've been using this time wisely, then we may find that we've shed a lot of old beliefs about ourselves, limiting self-perceptions, and we've opened our mind up to the cosmic picture. We're looking at the big picture around us and seeing that everything is interconnected, nothing happens in isolation. And by expanding this awareness, we can then take actions that are aligned with this universal consciousness rather than just the personal consciousness. And we may well find ourselves feeling liberated from the lives that we used to live, where outwardly we may have seemed successful, but inwardly we may have been suffering from self-doubt and not knowing or not feeling happy with the way our lives are, because it's not aligned with who we are. Now, the other aspect I mentioned was Venus conjunct Jupiter in Scorpio. I mentioned it last week, but this aspect is exact on Monday. And this is a time Scorpio is dragging up the shadow side. It's highlighting the deep unconscious stuff that impacts our lives negatively and keeps us living in the past. And during this time, what we need to look at doing, Scorpio can also be very healing, but it requires us to face that shadow to begin with, because if we're not aware of the shadow side within us, then how can we transform it and heal ourselves by releasing the wounds, releasing the need for control, or releasing the need to hold on to these things as part of our identity? It's about cleaving off the wounds or separating them from our sense of identity and realising that we are not our wounds. We are not the need for controlling other people. We can actually heal these by disidentifying from the wound and through intense presence with ourselves, face the wounds, feel the emotions tied to them, but then let them go so that the emotions separate from us and our consciousness elevates and we can move close to that universal love. So this may also be a time of forgiveness. Venus being relationships, this may be a time where our relationships go through a fundamental transformation, and maybe a time where we need to engage in the process of forgiveness, because this is a very Scorpio may be intense, but forgiveness is actually a key tool of Scorpio, because that is what can transform our consciousness beyond the wounded ideas that the ego contains and the old ego constructs, and it can shatter the walls of the ego to open us up to the cosmic consciousness that I mentioned in Sagittarius. We have to do the work of Scorpio though. Jupiter's going to be here for this up until around about November of next year anyway, so this theme's going to be constant. But with Venus interacting with Jupiter, this may be time of transforming our relationships through forgiveness, through healing, and through letting go of what's old. So if a relationship is beyond the point that it can be saved, or if it's a time where the relationship isn't healthy for either party, then either it's a time of letting the relationship go, or it's letting go of how it used to be or how we were as individuals, embracing that process of forgiveness so that it can be transformed and can be healed. But whether that's which option we need to take depends on the nature of our relationships. If it's a perfectly healthy relationship, then this may well be a time of deepening the authenticity of the bonds, of forging deeper, more intimate connections with one another, and experiencing greater grace through this. Jupiter, if we do the work of bringing the unconsciousness to consciousness, it can bring a lot of transformation for us and a greater abundance as a result. But we have to take this step of transformation to begin with, and we have to have the courage to look at our own belief systems and look at our own sense of self and realise that we have to undergo the transformation internally and release our pasts, release our need for control, our need for power over other people, in order for us to manifest the high levels of Scorpio, which is the energy of the Phoenix, which burns through all the negative, all the egoic dross, and opens our consciousness up to a higher power and a transpersonal expression where the love that we give is transformational in nature. People, if we've done the work ourselves, we radiate this kind of love from us. It radiates from the core of our being. It's not just something that we talk about, it's something that our own being gives off, and this can bring a transformational energy into other people's lives through our presence. But this only works if we do the work internally first. So this week there's quite a few major changes going on, but it's also an opportunity for significant transformation, of healing our relationship with other people, of developing deeper reserves of love through facing our shadow and acknowledging it and transforming it through self-love rather than judgment or fear, because love is the only thing that can transform this side of ourselves, that can bring the shadow sides into balance with the light in a way that there's no clash, there's no fight between the two sides. The more we accept our shadow side, the more powerful we can become through becoming centered in the core of our being. We're no longer drawn off our center through external interactions, because we've transformed the triggers within us and taken away their power, so that when situations happen around us, we're not becoming emotionally triggered by them in the same way, because raw wounds have been transformed by that love. So I hope it's a useful guide for this week. May it bring you much growth and may it bring many blessings and lots of love for yourself. Take care.